So, what are deferral clauses in California legislation? Basically, a deferral clause is used when one bill defers to another bill concerning which provisions will end up taking effect. So, here's an example from a recent bill in the 2022 legislative session here in California. Any section of any bill enacted by the legislature during the 2022 calendar year, other than a section of the annual maintenance of the codes bill or another bill with a subordination clause that takes effect on or before January 1, 2023, and that amends and renumbers, amends and repeals, adds or repeals a section that is amended and renumbered, amended and repealed, added, repealed and added, or repealed by this act shall prevail over this act, whether that act is chaptered before or after this act. Wow. So this language is intentionally broad in its application, and going over it, the language initially provides that it applies to any section of any act, so very broad, that's enacted at any time during the entire calendar year of the legislative session. So in this example, all of the 2022 calendar year legislative session. It creates only two exceptions: the annual maintenance of the codes bill, there's one or two of those, and a bill with a subordination clause. Finally, this language requires that the section or sections of an act, regardless of when it's enacted, will be the one that takes effect. So in essence, this provision overrides the government code provision that otherwise provides chaptering out, which is the last enacted bill takes effect, overriding any conflicting code section provisions from an earlier enacted bill. So the following that I'll read to you is an example from a recent bill describing a deferral clause that's in the Legislative Council's digest in the book. So it said, this bill would enact various conforming and technical changes related to another bill, and then it specified the AB, which recodifies and reorganizes the California Public Records Act. This bill would only become operative if that AB is enacted and reorganizes and makes other non-substantive change to California's Public Records Act that becomes operative on January 1, 2023. The bill would also specify that any other bill enacted by the legislature during the 2021 calendar year that takes effect on or before January 1, 2022, and that affects a provision of this bill shall prevail over this act. As the Legislative Council's digest explains, the deferral clause allows any other bill, with the exceptions noted, that conflicts with any section of this particular bill containing the deferral clause, that other bill is going to prevail over this bill's conflicting provisions. The other term that's used in these deferral clauses is reference to a subordination clause. What on earth is a subordination clause? Well, generally a subordination clause is a clause that provides that the current bill will take priority over any other bill. And so subordination basically means to yield in priority. Sometimes these deferral clauses are combined with contingent enactment language, such as the following I'll read from a 2022 bill, and it said, this act shall only become operative if Assembly Bill, whatever it is referenced, of the 2021-22 regular session is enacted and becomes operative on January 1, 2024, and that bill would reorganize and make other non-substantive changes to a particular law, in which case this act shall also become operative on January 1, 2024. So as you can see, these deferral and subordination clauses do come into play in California statutes.